Good evening. Welcome to New Horizons. If you have a mobile phone, we'd like to put it on silent, please. Thank you. Right, massive welcome back to Anne Stewart with Diana Divine Healing. Tonight's talk comes on the back of a very unusual encounter, and one that would have alarmed me. The lady who met with a suspicious early death, Princess Diana, made contact with Anne in the night with messages for mankind that transcend fear or violence. Information will tonight be channeled by Anne from Diana. I personally don't know much of channeling, so this should be quite interesting. We may receive insight into our rapidly changing and rather strange world. Please welcome Anne Stewart. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Rob. I'm Jack Stewart. I know more about this than she does. Apologies, the simple reason. The reason being is that when Anne channels, I record it, and a book's coming out, and then using voice dictation software, type it up. She remembers anything between 5 and 10% of what comes through, whereas I know it all. And that's where the similarities end, because I think I'm as likely a channel, least likely a channel as anybody. Because when this thing happened, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute, I'll shut up. I'm an off-the-scale Republican. I have no time for the royal family, hereditary wealth, not interested. But when this thing started to evolve, it became very apparent all the lies and the various things that have been told about Diana, for example. Not least the fact that she was a rebel in the world's most powerful family, and that has to count for something. So, we're going to show you, we've got a PowerPoint presentation. Anne's going to do a formal channeling addressed to yourselves here tonight in about 15-20 minutes. And then later on, she's going to take questions. So if any of you, and there's no way it can be managed without 50 questions, and it just can't be done. So where's Rob? Rob's going to come up with a mechanism whereby if you want to have one of your questions answered, he'll write it down somewhere, then we'll draw lots or do something. We'll end up with about 5 questions. Then you can, the 5 people who drew the long straw can ask a question directly of Diana through Anne. So they're the formal channeling bits. The rest of it is background things that reinforce the message, because I'm sure you're all wondering what the hell the message is. Well, it begins with what you can see on the screen. In the stillness, everything happens, which was again channeled. So let's continue. It's knowing which bits of kit to use here. There we go. Can you all see that? See that from the back? I haven't a clue where that came from, but it makes sense. And this is about our 4th or 5th time here. Some of us will recognise us because we do talks on healing and health. But I'm sure there's not a person in the room who would disagree with that. We live in exciting times. And for me personally, this is my favourite quote from the Diana Channeling, because it applies to everybody in this room, whether you like it or not. And one of the many things that have come out through this process is the idea of taking the planet to another dimension. Well, how are we going to do that? We'll explain what we believe that to be later. Or you could ask Diana a question. And it's going to be done through love and compassion, not through violence. And again, I know what I'm talking about. I was a left-wing political activist a long time ago, and I thought the only way you could change this corrupt world was through violence. No. Violence begets violence. It achieves nothing. And while you're reading that, you may notice the background. We've recently moved to Malvern in Worcestershire. We used to live in the northwest, not a million miles from where Rob used to live, Gratnall. And Melbourne's a very special place, there's a lot of connections. I don't know how many of you know, but it's where Tolkien was inspired to write Lord of the Rings, also C.S. Lewis, The Chronicles of Narnia, and W.H. Auden, the poet. It's also inspired Elgar to write many of his compositions. And of course Elgar was Diana's favourite composer. During the presentation, when stuff's in white, yes, again, when stuff's in white, that's when Diana was quoted when she was here on the Earth plane. And that's something she said a few years before her, should we call it a death? Could I just ask, it might be interesting for a number of people here, how many of you have actually witnessed any kind of public channeling? Could you just put your hands up? Oh, great. Yeah, that's about a quarter of you, that's interesting. Have any of you seen Michael Recchia? Michael Recchia, he channels, he lives in Burnley, he's done his Sanctuary of Healing. Very interesting, it's totally different to what you're going to see tonight. Michael channels an ascended master called Joseph, who was from Atlantis. And Joseph actually takes his whole body over. So at the end of a couple of hours, Michael almost has had to be carried out, because it isn't just a question of words coming through. In the case of Joseph, he takes him over completely, but you won't see that tonight. These are just some images of Diana when she was alive.
I'm sorry. I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. By each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone. The good earth is rich. We can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful. But we have lost the way. Too much, feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and children. Victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish.
I must say, despite what I said before about republicanism, when I saw she got involved with a landmine thing, I thought at first it was a publicity stunt. But again, when you find more out about it, it clearly wasn't. And again, some of you may recall, she's one of the first celebrity, in quotes, to actually hug someone who was suffering from AIDS. And you saw the quote from the Queen, who didn't approve of it at all. And the reason I'm showing you that picture, that was taken around Malta in about 1985. And I never mentioned this because to me Diana was a waste of time, but I only mentioned this to Anne when we were in Greece last week, that how much she did look like Diana at the time. Very interesting with hindsight, like everything else. Probably sums up the Diana message. The opening prayer.
We give thanks this evening to the Spirit World for bringing us all here together to share our thoughts and our loves with each other. We ask the Spirit World to come to us and bring with us their angelic beings, their love and their integrity. And we ask you here, for anyone who may need healing, to send out your love vibrations of healing to them.
As you read that, just to reinforce, there are two sides to the Diana work. One is about awakening, and the other is about love and compassion. And I hope the words of that, again, to me, capture the very essence of what we're trying to do here. Another question that would be interesting, have any of you heard of the Essenes? You just raise your hand if you have. Excellent. Again, a similar number, about a quarter of you. Well, Anne's going to tell you more about that later. What the Essenes did, they classed humanity into three categories. The people who were asleep, the people who were drowsy, and those who were awakened. And essentially, the people who were asleep were just acknowledged, but they weren't the people who were going to change the world. It's the drowsy people and the awakened people who are going to change the world. So that's the essence of what Diana's working with, the drowsy people and the awakened people. And I'm pretty sure we've got a room full of awakened people. So it's not really that difficult. This was on David Icke's website this morning, some of you may have seen it. One thing I can't remember, the bloke in the middle at the bottom, I've seen his face before, but I can't remember who he is. Can anybody recognise him? I think it is Eric Eve, yeah, you're dead right. How interesting. I always suspected John Smith didn't die of a heart attack a long time ago. Anyway, interesting. So, for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long it takes, Anne's going to get into a trance and going to channel Diana directly. I'm going to just record it with a little camera as well, because apart from the quality stuff that Alex is doing. But if you just, it's not time for questions, that's later. She's just going to channel the message and we'll see what comes up.
Well, good evening, and I thank you all for being here. It is so good to be here with like-minded people. It is our duty now to take the planet forward. So much is coming up, so much is being cleaned, and it is the first time in thousands of years that we have been able to do this. So much has been hidden from you. But now the times are changing, and with the communication that you will have between you, we can start to put this planet into a much, much better dimension. How you and I and everyone have been fooled. How all the false flags in the past we have all been taken in by, but no more. No more. And on the other side, in the spirit world, we are working with you. And we are doing all we can, but we do need the help of you humans to come through and to turn this land and this planet into a place of beauty. For there is no shortage of anything on this earth. God has given you everything. There is no shortage of wealth, no shortage of fuel, no shortage of food, no shortage of anything. And you have to take it back. And of course, you are awakening quicker than you probably think, although not as quick as you would like. But we have to remember that we have to take it as God wants it to be, and in God's time. It has to be planned, and it is planned. And as you come here tonight, and as you talk about it with your friends, the vibration of this planet is changing. And I ask you, when times feel really down and low, keep within your groups. Keep within the groups, even smaller groups, to keep your vibration high, because as the vibration changes, so will everything. Think about sharing your love with others, because it is only through this, through the love from your heart, that we will change, and you will change. For many years, we have lost that feeling for each other. We have been taught to go and get what we want, to stand on people, to tread on them, and to look at the lesser people, and to view them as lesser people. And I always say, be kind to everyone, no matter what their background.